Hey gang, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on isolated vocal tracks, and next up is Steve Walsh. The band is Kansas. The song is called Carry On My Wayward Son, or just Wayward Son, depending on if it's on a TV soundtrack or not. But anyway, I did a version of this myself. I want you guys to check out, see how I did. I'll put it in the description so you can check it out yourself, kind of get your magnifying glass out and scrutinize it. Also, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm looking to try to hit 1 million subs, so really appreciate that. And I have a singing course. The singing course is called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. You can find it right here at KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com, where I also have a free singing forums with around 25,000 singers, all talking about how to get great at singing. Okay, I'm gonna dive right in now. Right up front, this intro is so epic, it immediately grabs you, right? And it reminds me a lot of the voicings or the way the Eagles would have done something. And let me explain this as we listen to it. It's not overly processed. In fact, there's almost no processing at all. And the harmonies sound like different voices. It doesn't sound like one guy singing over and over again, though there is some doubling, you know, with Steve Walsh, you can hear that. But also, they would replicate this live, like the Eagles, flawlessly. And I've seen this band several times, and every time it was epic, and I mean epic, like no missed notes, killer singing, you know, and so forth. So Steve Walsh is one of my favorite singers too, by the way, guys. So I keep talking to you guys about, you know, you keep asking me, who are your influences? How did you learn to sing like that? This is one of the guys that I learned from, is Steve Walsh. He's just awesome. So I want to fire it up. Let's take a listen to the intro, and there's a lot of instrumentation, so I'm going to, you know, kind of have to fast forward a bit, but check out the intro. Here it goes. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. Okay, now can't you hear? There are stars in the southern sky, and if ever you decide you should go, right? Don't you kind of get that sort of feeling? This is a little more intense, a little more energy, because that one's slower. Seven Bridges Road by the Eagles. But it has that like just quartet, gospel quartet, you know, just southern sound that just is really cool. Of course, the band's called Kansas, right? Middle America. And so anyway, so I love that. And I love the way the harmonies are placed. They're not perfect thirds. It's just a beautiful arrangement of how they did it. Let's listen to it one more time. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. Cool. So it's just a very honest kind of sound. It's not so produced that it's, you know, and we love that too. Def Leppard and Bon Jovi and all these bands. I mean, I'm super guilty of that with the records I have of my own. Big anthemic choruses with sometimes hundreds of vocals going off. That's not this. This is just a really honest, we can replicate this live. We can do it night after night, and everybody in the band sings kind of thing. Just, you know, again, like the Eagles too. So here we go.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher.
Now, one of the things I thought was kind of interesting is he sounded very stuffy too, right? But I never really noticed that until I listened to the track. And a lot of these guys do. I mean, I've listened to A-Beat a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of drug involvement in a lot of people's lives and whatnot. And so I don't care if it's Billy Joel or Linda Ronstadt or whomever, like, you know, we hear this kind of stuffy sort of sound, and a lot of that, I think the contributing factor was probably drugs and alcohol, or, you know, maybe not sleeping great and whatever, pollen. But you do hear that. However, he does something that is really kind of interesting to me. We talk a lot about open throat technique. And we talk about not over-accentuating the vocal tract, your throat, right? And not over-accentuating the words or the consonants or the vowels themselves. Now, there is an area where this is done a lot, and that's in theater or on Broadway, okay? Because they want the last person in the last row, to understand what you're saying. Now, there was a big split that happened around the early 70s, late 60s in the opera world, when theater, a lot of the theater coaches used used a lot of bel canto or appoggio, which is early operatic style of singing or technique for singing. And they wanted to really make sure that everyone really understood what they were saying when they sang, so people would really understand it. Now, I like to give funny examples, so I'm going to give a funny example of an old theater gal, Broadway gal, Carol Channing. Okay, you guys remember Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend? So a typical theater approach would be, diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? It almost sounds like David Lee Roth with a little bit less slurring. But anyway, and so there was this real over accentuation of that. The problem with that is it really becomes constrictive in the throat, and it's hard to go from one vowel to another vowel in extremes, right? Because what we really want is diamonds are a girl's best friend instead of diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? We don't want that in the sound. So and I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but what's fascinating to me is that Steve Walsh kind of has a little bit more of the over-enunciation theater approach, though he still uses some open throat techniques. So we're going to talk about this a little bit as we go, because like I said, this is about a tutorial and analysis. So I'm going to play it again and listen to what I'm talking about. Check it out. And listen to his stuffiness too. Check it out.
I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher, but I flew too high.
Now, you kind of almost hear, once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. Right? I'm kind of doing that to be stuffy. Now let's do it without quite the nasality and the stuffiness. Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. Right? You can really hear this over accentuation. I would prefer, as you're learning this, and if you want to add that over accentuation later, you can, but to sing it more like this. Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. Right, so think of it just vowels. Right, because you kind of sing through the vowels rather than right. Instead of really over accentuating all those words, I'd prefer you didn't learn open throat technique first and then added that accentuation later. So let's continue.
Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could think, I still was a madman.
Now think about though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could see, I still was a madman. I'd rather hear though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could see, I still was a madman. Right? I'd rather have it a little more slurry, a little more contiguous phrase singing without starting and stopping what I would call glottal stops, stopping in the throat to restart all the phrases and connecting them together to keep the throat open, because it's a lot easier to do that from singing, especially as you start to sing higher. That's really, really important. Okay, let's continue.
Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could see, I still was a madman. I hear the voices when I'm dreaming.
See, dreaming rather than dreaming, dreaming, right? You want to keep it real close to that ah vowel. We've talked a lot about that.
I can hear them say.
No, hear them say, right? He's like, ah. He's real open on that. He's not going, I can hear them say, right? He's going, I can hear them say, with a smile, say, right? So you can really hear the openness of the vowel, which is what I'm talking about. He's using both. He's using that theater approach with this. Now, someone else that did a really great job of this, if you go back and listen to Gethsemane and you listen to some of the early stuff, I don't know if I should direct you to do that, because again, that approach is really more about telling a story. So, Gethsemane is just, why, Lord, you and this and that. So there's a lot of that, but you could hear some of the greats that did some of those great Broadway performances. They use open throat, and then they also accentuate the words as well. So let's continue.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Now, it's interesting, in this section here, you can hear that it's different than the intro, right? And what I mean by that, it's more intense. Carry on my wayward son, because the band is in now and they kind of sing it with more intensity with the band rather than the intro. So you could tell it was recorded at a different time, which I think is really cool. Let's check this out. Let's continue. Here we go.
Masquerading as a man with a reason. My charade is the event of the season. And if I claim to be a wise man, well, it surely means that I don't know. On the stormy sea of moving emotion, tossed about I'm like a ship on the ocean. I set a course for winds of fortune. But I hear the voices say,
love it. Hear the voices say. He's got the that beautiful open, great vibrato, great open throat, killer pitch, good tone. That's how I learned to sing like this, guys. Listening to these guys and go, wow, man, how does he do that? I want to do that too. Or at least, maybe not exactly the same, but certainly want to learn from it. I can tell you that much. Let's continue.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Okay, cool. So we're going to move on. There's a big instrumental part here, which they were known for. And then here we go. We're going to go to the next section.
Carry on. You will always remember. Carry on. Nothing equals the splendor.
No, he goes, ee. It should be, ee. I would go, like that. Nothing equals the splendor. I would open up that vowel a little more instead of getting caught. But he's also using it for tone to get that kind of gritty, distorted tone too. So he's able to do that because he's used to doing it and can get away with it. Later in life, even this days, he's not doing so great with his voice. And some of this stuff costs singers their voices over time if they don't know how to manage it too well over, as they age. But
you will always remember. Carry on. Nothing equals the splendor. Now your life's no longer empty.
here's a great note.
Surely heaven waits for you.
Now he goes, for you. Right, we don't really want to do that. That's a tough note. That's a tough vowel to close down. We on, surely heaven waits for you. Yeah, for you. Not you, it's yeah. So it's O with ooh in it to keep from that throat closing down. Check it out one more time.
Surely heaven waits for you.
Great tone.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry. Don't you cry no more.
Okay, check out my version on mine. Again, click into that description. See how I fare up, how I stack up to this stuff, because it's not easy to do. Okay, here's the end of the song. Yeah. Man, he's got that kind of distorted tone, which I love. Okay, now I want to go back again, and I want to add the track to this so you can hear how this sits in the track, which is really cool. All right, here it is.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher.
Now, when you guys think about a track, I do this all the time because I know everyone's kind of influenced by somebody else, right? Or, it's original, but there's still influences, right? And so I think of, lady, from the moment, sunshine in your eyes, right? So let me take out the track, can't you kind of hear that? Lady, clear and lovely, you're my lady, right? Now, Lady's slower and it's more of a ballad until it gets to the end, but that's also a band that had those great harmonies and it's all kind of around the same time. So everybody was kind of competing for that kind of space. So this reminds me a bit of Styx, right? The band Styx, and some other bands have done this too, but I just wanted to point that out along the way and see if you see the association.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher, but I flew too high.
Beautiful piece.
Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could think, I still was a madman. I hear the voices when I'm dreaming.
Now, I want to point out one more thing. When I went to go sing this tune, I noticed, because I sang it to the original track, okay? It wasn't like a karaoke track. I actually was able to score the original track and sing to it. Is that they actually speed it up as it goes along. And I found myself finding the pocket and then having to kind of rush a little bit, having to catch up to the track, and having to kind of memorize how the ebb and flow of the tempo of this happened. Now later, you know, like kind of sort of late 80s, mid 80s, whatever, actually early 80s, starting the early 80s, everybody played to a click, and the click was kind of basically the same groove all the way through. And that sort of took away, I think, a lot of the fun of the energy of a song where it would kind of speed up and slow down, provided it wasn't overdone and it wasn't just a bad drummer with bad timing. But, you know, as it would kind of speed up, slow down, and you can really hear it. Check it out. You can hear it speed up from here. You know.
Once I rose above the noise. Though my mind could think I still was.
See how much faster it is there?
Man, I hear the voices when I'm dreaming. I can hear them say, carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done.
I'm a big Kansas fan.
Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
It's gonna go to the next section because this is a really cool anthemic lift in the song. Check it out.
Masquerading as a man with a reason. My charade is the event of the season. And if I
Instead of going, my charade is the man of the reason, blah, 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 blah. It's, my charade is the man of the reason, na, 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 na. Right? I'd keep the vowels a little more closely related because it's too hard to sing like that unless you can get away with it, right?
masquerading as a man with a reason. My charade is the event of the season. And if I claim to be a wise man, it surely means that I don't know.
Surely means that I don't know. That's the note. Sorry about that. Here we go.
On a stormy sea of moving emotion, tossed about I'm like a ship on the ocean. I hear the voices winds of fortune, but I hear the voices say, carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done.
Love this part.
Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
I love this. Come on, you guitar players out there, admit it. You had to learn this song because everybody did it and it was that cool. Everybody had to learn this song, you know, as you're starting out on guitar, right? But this is my favorite part of the whole, my favorite lift part of the whole song. Here we go.
Carry on, you will always remember. Carry on, nothing equals the splendor. Now your life's no longer empty. Surely heaven waits for you.
Coming up. Check it out. Ready?
There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry. Don't you cry no more.
All right, now, I did go ahead and I did add a little bit of effect to this because I like to do it just for fun. So I'm gonna play this with my effect in it, and I want you to check it out. You might think it's too much, and it might be. I'm just having fun with the track. I'm gonna take the this out. I'm gonna lead the vocals in, and I'm gonna play it. Here's without it.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion.
Here's with it.
Just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher.
Here's without it.
But I flew too high.
Here's with it.
Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could think, I still was a madman. I hear the voices when
Without
I'm
it.
dreaming.
Now, you might say, well, it kind of sounds like he's in a bathtub. And that's kind of the approach I went for because it's very plate, sort of metallic sounding with the band. So when you put the band in, check it out like this. Here's without it to start.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion.
Here's with.
Just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion. I was soaring ever higher.
Without.
But I flew too
more honest without it. But wait till the band kicks in, because maybe when you're doing an effect, you don't want it in the verse because you want it to be real intimate, and that's cool. But check out what happens when the band kicks in.
But I hear the voices say.
Okay, just gonna do that line. So I'm gonna do it once.
But I hear the voices say.
That's without. Here's with.
But I hear the voices say.
It's just a little bigger, adds a little more push to it.
Carry on my wayward son.
Without it.
There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary
Still without it.
head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Now I want to go to this other section here so you can hear it when it gets big, because a lot of times when the band is big, you can add more effect to make it sort of match the beef of the band. Because if you don't, the vocal can get kind of lost. So I'm gonna do it without effect first. Okay, so it's gonna be without effect and then with effect. Check it out. Watch this with the band.
Carry on, you will always remember. Carry on, nothing equals the splendor.
Here's with.
Carry on, you will always remember. Carry on, nothing equals the splendor.
Without.
Now your life's no longer empty.
With.
Surely heaven waits for you.
Without.
Carry on my wayward son.
With.
There'll be peace when you are done.
Without.
Lay your weary head to rest.
This is gonna be without.
Don't you cry. Don't you cry no more.
Okay, now watch this. In the middle of it, I'm gonna add it.
Don't you cry. Don't you cry no more.
Without. With. Okay, now it does push the sound farther back. That's true, and maybe you don't want that sound, but like I said, you can play with it. This is just real crude, fast, you know, chicka 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 stuff. I'm not like really intently making a record. If I was doing that, I'd be a lot more ginger and careful with this stuff. But anyway, hopefully this was good information for you guys. Hopefully you're learning from this stuff. I know I'm learning. I'm learning about my favorite artists of all time and how they did stuff and just what it really sounded like. If you were in the studio like we are right now, imagine if Steve Walsh was on the other end of that glass singing this song for the first time, had no idea what an iconic, epic, legendary piece this thing was going to become, and you're watching this guy from behind the glass. That's kind of the equivalent of what this is right here when you hear him do it by himself.
Don't you cry. Don't you cry no more.
Doesn't it kind of give you the chills? It does me, man. When I hear these isolated original tracks, I'm like, wow, that is cool. Anyway, thank you for joining me, gang. Appreciate you having me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That would be really cool. And definitely stick around for my next video.